episode of the 2020 podcast, Canada's #1 optometry podcast. I am your host, Dr. Harbir Sayan. Thank you so much for taking the time to join me here, guys, to learn and to grow. As always, I'm so grateful for all the support, everything you've been doing that's been helping the podcast grow. And as always, right off the top, I make the same request. If you don't mind, please do share it, whether you put a link on LinkedIn, send it to your friend via text, or put a screenshot up on Instagram. Either way, just let your friends and colleagues know that we're having these conversations that are supporting our colleagues and supporting the profession. And my guest today is no exception to that, Dr. Jennifer Stewart, who is a returning guest, the very, very lovely Dr. Jennifer Stewart, who is the founder and chief vision officer of Look New Canaan, her brand new shiny office that we're going to spend some time talking about. We are here. Yes, you're there. Maybe we need a tour, Jen. We'll go into that in a second. She's the founder of OD Perspectives, which is an advisory and consulting company in eye care. She's the professional editor of Independent Strong. She's a KOL for multiple companies, including Cooper, Mackie Health, and The Edge. She is also a sports vision consultant, which is one of the things we dove into last time, and we're definitely going to talk about because she has written a course for the rest of us who want to get into sports vision. So we're going to talk all about sports vision as well. But let's talk about private practice first. Thank you so much, Jennifer, for joining me again on the 2020 podcast.
Thank you for having me. I'm so excited to be here again.
Jen, why don't we do this? I like to kind of just have the guest give me, obviously I've just given a bio. That's not even all of the accolades. Like there's so much more we could say about you and your career so far. But how would you introduce yourself? Like, for example, we're going to Vision Expo in a few days. What if you bumped into or met someone new there? What would you say about yourself?
That I've done pretty much everything there is in optometry, and there's not much I haven't done, but I'm a speaker, educator, consultant, and now, yes, the founder of a brand new cold start. So I am really excited to share that I've cold started. This is the beginning of our 6th week here at Look New Canaan, and I'm having an awesome, awesome time.
That's really exciting to hear. 6 weeks in, so it's brand new. I think this is, I was going to say this is like a dying art, right? Starting a cold practice. And because it can be tough, very, very tough. And it seemed like to me and all of the other friends and colleagues in the industry that you were out. You'd sold your practice in June 2022. You'd sold your private practice, and we thought, Jen is out. She's done it. And here we are a year and a half later, and you're back in it, brand new cold start. So tell me about that journey from like selling your practice and then deciding to start a brand new one.
So it was great. I had a private practice that I joined pretty much out of school. So I joined there my 2nd year of practicing. I joined as an associate and then became a partner, and I was a partner for 12 years. And I sold that to focus on trying other things and speaking and consulting and writing and traveling, all the things that are hard to do when you're running a huge practice. And also be a mom. I have 2 boys who are now 8 and 11. So I really had the opportunity to be a room mom and go on field trips and do the things that sometimes we can't do at 1 o'clock in the afternoon. Right. And I really had that opportunity to be engrossed in their classes and enjoy taking them to sports. But I missed private practice, and I missed it. I didn't know. Everyone said when I sold, they're like, "Are you going to practice again?" I said, "I have no idea. I cannot even begin to think what I'm going to end up doing, what I'll miss, what I don't miss. But for now, this is what I want to do." And I love traveling to meetings. I love seeing people like you who are just so excited about optometry and engaged in their practices. And I love teaching, but I started to miss actually being in practice and being able to try new things or to do the things I was talking about doing. And I said, gosh, I didn't think I'd miss it this soon, but I actually miss mostly running a business and having that excitement and being able to try different things and change them. So I said to my husband, I really miss it. And he said, I know you would. You're an extrovert. Of course you're going to miss it. Exactly. And the travel wears on, the travel wears on you. I mean, I don't even know how you're functioning. You have been on the road. Like, I mean, you've traveled more in the last month, I think, than I usually do in a year, but,
then a bit. Yeah.
So I missed it. And I missed patient care. I missed the relationship I had with my patients, but I missed running and owning a business.
That's amazing. And that makes sense based on our last, when you're on the podcast, but even just conversations that we have now in person, you definitely are you're a business person. Like you have that, not just the acumen, but you have that desire. I remember when I talked to you on the podcast last, you were talking about, oh, I love like tinkering with this, and then we want to bump this number up, so let's try this, and it's pretty cool that you have that. Not, and myself included, not many others have that. I don't, and I try to kind of get better at it. I'm constantly trying to do that. So that's part of the thing I want to learn from you in this conversation. But you know what? It's so funny, Jen. We're both into sports, obviously, you in being in sports vision and that kind of thing. But and a former athlete, of course. We don't want to forget that. I guess once an athlete, always an athlete, right?
Yes, although not as much at the moment. So
I should say once a former high-level college athlete. All right, now still an athlete. But to get to my point, what you remind me of is like a pro athlete, like retiring, like Tom Brady retired.
Am I Tom Brady? I was going to say.
No, this is not for me. I got to come back. 100%. I mean, you being from the New England area also kind of like makes sense. That reference makes sense.
I am Tom Brady. I wouldn't make that much money in optometry, though. I don't know that I'd come back, though.
Well, optometry, maybe you don't make that much money, but as a business owner, you have opportunities. As a business person, you have opportunities to make money in various ways. So anyways, that's what it reminded me of. I could picture you like up on that stage, like at a press conference, like, guys, I couldn't handle it. I'm coming back. We should have done one of those.
I know.
All right. So tell me, let's talk about the process. Okay. How did you get to that point of like deciding you wanted to start, not just come back to practice? Because you could have worked as an associate if you wanted to. How did you get to that point? How long of a thought process was it where you're like, okay, I'm going to start my own practice again?
So I don't know that I could ever come back. And I think after owning your own business for so long, I could never work for somebody. I don't think that was ever in my cards. That I'm too picky and I have too much sense of the way I want things. So in that sense, also, I thought about the idea of possibly buying a practice and thought, well, that could be, I'm putting in quotes, easier way to do this. Maybe looking at practices that are for sale in my area, and that would be kind of a easier way to have cash flow off the bat. But there was nothing for sale that I even would consider. And then my husband and I were talking about it, and he said, I don't know. Why are you afraid of just starting at cold? You've been in this industry for so long. You are well known in the area. I practiced here for 14 years. And so I said, you're right. I've just never thought of myself as a cold start person. I've never done it. But then the more I thought about it, any practice that I would buy, I would likely completely 100% gut. So at that point, like, unless it was perfect for me, which I think would be very hard to find,
right,
I would plan on completely gutting it, technology, equipment, frames, layout. So at that point, I said, I might as well do it if I'm going to come back to practice. And that's really what it came down for me, was if I'm going to do this, if I'm going to, be Tom Brady and come out of retirement, what would it look like for me? What would my dream practice look like? And I actually have the opportunity to create that. I don't have to come back. I don't need to come back to practice. But if I did, how would that look? What would the space look? What would the patients look like? What would my team look like? What frames would I have? What technology would I bring in? If I could build my dream practice, what would that look like? And so that's how I started. And I sat down and said, okay, if I close my eyes and I picture myself like walking into a space, what does it look like? And that's how I started creating. And it wasn't anyone else's practice that I've ever seen. So I said, okay, that just kind of pushed away buying something, because there's nothing around here in my area that looked like that. So I said, okay, here's how I'm going to do it. And I'm going to do it exactly the way I want it. And that's what I did. And that became my business plan. That became my culture. So it's just been such an amazing opportunity to start over and to think about, if I could do it all over again, how would it look like? And that's what I did.
That's incredible. Because coming from, now our office, we built from like scratch as a cold start as well. And we definitely tried to do that. Like, okay, what do we really want this to look like? And there's some aspects of it where we're like, yes, this basically was our vision come to life. And then there's others that sometimes it feels like things are a little out of control, whether it might be the cost is a little too much, like that doesn't work with our budget, or other, personnel type of decisions that were hard to make and things like that. So it sounds nice. If I had the chance to start over again, there's certainly changes I would make, and some things that you envision that just realistically they don't turn out the way you want them to. So it sounds exciting to like start from scratch. That sounds like a dream almost. Like, okay, close my eyes. What do I want it to look like and feel like?
Yes.
And you're able to put that together. How long then from the point of like when you decided you're going to have a new practice to are you leasing, or did you purchase the space?
Leasing. Yeah.
So till you found a space that you wanted to lease, then to like
build out,
opening your doors.
So I knew where I wanted to be. I mean, I've lived here for 15 years, so I knew there's two communities. I knew it was going to be one of two. There's two towns that are very similar in size, demographics, Darien and New Canaan, which are the two towns right next to me. So I looked at both of those. If you live somewhere, you kind of know the real estate, you know where you want to be and don't want to be. So I started looking at spaces. I worked with a broker, and we actually found a space right away that I had, I drive around and shop here. So we found a space and actually started negotiating on it, and actually pulled out of the negotiations because it was not, you have a gut feeling when you're like, this is just, something doesn't feel right. And I said to my husband, like, this was a spot I wanted, not this one, but the previous spot we were negotiating. I said, this spot was what drove me to want to start. Cause I said, I could see myself here. This process has been not great. And even my attorney was not, she was like, maybe you should look at some other spaces. So I said, okay.
Interesting.
I was disappointed and frustrated and thought, oh my gosh, am I making a mistake? Is this not supposed to happen in the moment? Now I look back and it all happened for a reason, but in the moment it didn't feel great. So then I decided to go slightly smaller. So I was looking at spaces 2,500 square feet and larger. My previous space was about 3,300, which I didn't want to go that big, but I wanted to be big enough that I wouldn't outgrow it in a year. But there was nothing else that I liked in that size range. So I decided to look smaller and went like 1,500 to 2,000, or I guess it was, we were looking 2,000 and over. So I went 1,500 to 2,000, which I said, I'll have to kind of compromise on some things and change what I have. I wanted to have multiple exam lanes and a large optical. So when I changed my criteria, and my main piece of criteria was I wanted to be a retail space. I wanted to have a retail presence. My former office was on the third floor of an older medical building. No walk-in traffic. I always joked if somebody walked in, like I would say, watch them carefully. So we were not a walk-in location, but I wanted a highly retail, highly optically focused space. So when I changed the criteria of my square footage, the space I'm in now popped up, and I came on a Sunday and did a walk around, and this is in New Canaan, so it's the next town over. And I saw the space and I said, that's it. I have to have that one.
Love it.
Yeah.
Oh, that's nice. That's nice if you have that instinctive feeling. And so how big is this space that you're in now?
This is 1875. So it was slightly smaller than I wanted, but actually we have 3 full lanes. So I'm in one, the third lane is not outfitted, but it's built out. It's wired and plumbed, so it can be a third lane when we're ready. But I have 2 full lanes now, 2 fully automated lanes, Marco digital for opters. I have a pre-test room, a contact lens room, a lab, a huge bathroom, and
that's nice.
I have an ADA compliant bathroom, and I have a huge optical. So that's awesome. And a business office. I have a large business office.
Oh, that helps.
Yeah, we fit it all into 1875, so it can
That's
be
pretty good. That's good. That sounds like a pretty efficient use of space. So our office is smaller. Geographically, there's going to be differences, right? So in Vancouver, it's hard to find a big space. It's very, very expensive to get retail space out here, right? So our office is about 1,550, I think, around there, around 1,500. And we have 2 exam rooms, 2 actually pre-test or auxiliary sort of rooms, small, and then contact lens room, lunch room, good amount of storage, bathroom, all that. And the optical is a decent size. So I feel pretty good about the space, and our exam rooms are pretty big. So they're kind of useful in different ways, multi-purpose in a sense. Our second exam room, we turned into a treatment room. So we just use it for dry eye, RF, IPL, stuff like that. But I wish we had a bigger space too, because I no longer have an office anymore.
No, I don't either.
That's one thing I'm missing. Every time we buy a new piece of equipment, we're like, I keep getting bumped from this room to this room to this room. Now I'm in the contact lens room, basically, is my office.
Well, that's what I had, when we went from originally thinking I was having a 2,500 square foot space to this, I said, what goes? And that was actually the first thing that went. But for me, I looked at it and said, I want, whatever space I have, I want as much possible as a revenue generating space. Like as a business person, if I have a large office, that's great for me and it's comfortable, but it's generating zero revenue.
That's right.
So I prioritize making the space that's usable for patients as large as possible. I mean, for now, I'm kind of spoiled and I use this third room as my office, but we're completely paperless and we have no paper. So I have a laptop. So have laptop will travel. All of my team is completely mobile. They have workstations, but they carry their laptops everywhere. So I'm the only one that really has a spot to sit, but I often bring my laptop and work with everybody else because it's lonely back here. So
that's nice. It's good for the culture.
That's what went. And then also, we had to kind of prioritize a staff break room. So we made a space, instead of having a room, we, in our business office, bought a countertop table and slid stools underneath so that they can eat there if they need a space. But we don't have, when we have a college dorm room fridge and a Keurig, but we don't have a huge staff room. But that's where I think I really prioritized generating revenue. Our space is really expensive. Fairfield County, Connecticut is a really expensive place to live and to
I've heard of Fairfield County.
So that's where I looked and said, okay, the space I have to be really creative in how I use that and put as much towards the patients as possible.
Got it. That's great. No, that's actually good advice.
Yes.
For somebody who is thinking to build out a new office, right? You have to think about where's the revenue coming from. Having a big, cushy office sounds nice, and be the CEO, sit in the back in your big cushy chair, but
do it at home.
That's there's $0 being generated. I mean, you could say that you are the person who's running the business, therefore generating the revenue, but I don't think that's a bit of a stretch.
Yeah. So I think you can be creative with space. I mean, my space is certainly larger than a lot of people. But also I have friends who are building 7, 8, 10,000 square foot offices. And I go, that is just like, I can't even fathom that. Same. So I think whatever space you are able to afford, it's being really creative and building really great storage and making it very useful, but not over, not buying too much house, not having a space that you can't grow into, but also that you can't afford. So I think it's a balance.
Yeah, no, I think working with this has been years now since, we've been open for 6 or 7 years now. So it's been a while. And then you got to rewind another year or two, a year and a half before that when we were just in the planning. So it's been many years now, but I still remember it was enjoyable for me. I like the sort of the design and architectural aspect to it all. Like, okay, this is where the room's going to go and visualizing, walking through and how much space you need for all these different things. I love that part.
I don't. So that's where I hired good people. So we started looking for space. To answer your original question, I guess it would be in the summer, the end of the summer. It's like, it feels like a year. It feels like forever ago. And we signed our lease and started construction here in September of 2023. So it felt like construction took forever, but it's really quick. I know it felt forever, but it's in the grand scheme. So we started, because August people were away. So we started getting permits. And I think I have to look at my pictures, but I think it was around September. And then we were in January. That's really early quick. January. Yeah. So it was an open space. There was very little demo. It was pretty much an open space, but we added everything else, flooring, walls, everything, plumbing, electrical. So about 4 months, which in the grand scheme was not. Yeah. So we were here. My team started here right after the new year, and we did a month of training and getting ourselves, inventory, getting everything set up. And then I saw a couple friends the end of January, like some real soft start people. I said, this might take us a while. We're learning. So that's my piece of advice for anyone cold starting. Don't start with real patients first. Give yourself a couple weeks of friends and family who won't mind if you take a long time in the optical pricing things out or learning the software. My first day, we had like a technology issue where nothing was connecting. So I had to move everybody. And so things happen in a cold start, no matter how much you plan and how much you train, things happen. So that's one of my biggest pieces of advice is don't have a real new patient early on. We were pushing everybody out a month to give us time to work through our flow and understand how we're going to work together. But in 2 weeks, we were seeing real patients. We got it pretty quickly.
That's excellent. That's a great piece of advice to have that soft start, bring in just friends and family in the beginning.
Yeah. And let them know it's going to be rough and they don't care. And it still can be embarrassing when you're fumbling or taking a long time, but it really takes the pressure off you feeling that it's as somebody who doesn't know you. And it really helped us feel comfortable with getting through everything. So that's like another big piece of advice is don't start booking new patients for a couple weeks at least. And the great thing is we had new patients right away who were calling, and it also built like this kind of, this, oh my gosh, they're already booked out. We're like, we have our first appointments in 3 weeks. And they're like, wow, that's amazing. I'm like, it's just, we don't know if we want to have a good experience for you. So we'll give it a few weeks, but it kind of built this cachet that we were already booking out too.
Right. Yeah, that's true. That's true. It makes you look like, wow, you just opened and you're so busy already. That helps. That perception's important. So I want to come back to that. We're going to talk about like how we bring in new patients, but especially in a brand new practice. But there was something else that you said I want to go back to about the training. So you said that, the office was basically ready in early January, and then you trained for about a month before you started seeing even patients, like before you did your soft start. I think that's super important. And that was a mistake. So that's one that I made. So if I was to go back to the beginning, that's one thing that we were in such a hurry to open that I think like, we're like, oh, we're paying rent. I got to open as quickly as I can. That we didn't spend enough time to like, not just hire good people, but like train them right. And so that's something I wanted just to kind of like put a little extra point on there. If you don't mind just sharing, what kind of training did you do and how many people were you training at that time?
So I agree. There is this feel of like, oh my gosh, I've signed my lease. I've paid all this money. I've, my construction and the loan is starting, and there can be this feel of, I just have to get patients in now and whatever happens. I had the luxury of time that we were still waiting for our certificate of occupancy. So we technically couldn't open. So it was a blessing in disguise that we were able to be here, but we couldn't actually see patients. So it was a little stressful for me to say, oh my gosh, I have 3 people. I had hired, another great thing I did was I staggered the starting of my employees. So everyone didn't start day one. So my office manager, who came from my former office, she started in November with me. She was working remotely, helping me set up our EHR, all of our software, getting me credentialed. I turned everything over to her and let her go. And she set up our pricing, and her and I worked together. She worked virtually for 6 weeks. And then my first team member started January 2nd when we were in person. So she was my optician. And then 2 weeks later, my technician started. And 2 weeks later, my second optician started. So that helped me spread out that payroll over that first month where we really weren't seeing anybody, and really kind of it wasn't everyone starting at once where we're all new. It was every time somebody started, we had kind of worked through some things and then brought a new person on, and then a new person and a new person. So I think that's another great, if you're able to do that in a cold start. I mean, most people aren't hiring 4 people off the bat like I did anyway. But staggering, if you do have multiple people starting and you're able to stagger, that can help feel a little less scary when you're paying. You feel like the money's just flowing out instead of in. But once we had everybody start, what we did, actually, I'm a huge fan. If you've heard me talk at all, I love Kayla and Rook of Spexy.
Oh yes, of course.
I am a huge Spexy fan. It is, for me, the best training possible was to turn it over and outsource it to somebody else, and to have everyone on my team. I signed up for Spexy, and they went through, and they're still doing it in between patients. If we're quiet, they still log on and continue to go through all the courses. I did the Spexy training myself as well. I did it during my year off, but they went through Spexy 101. They did all the optical training. So that was what we did. We'd do a little bit of that, and then we'd have a break and talk together and plan some things in the office. But there's so much pressure that we feel we have to do everything and do all the training. And set up everything. And I'm here to say there are people way more qualified and better at doing this than many of us. And if you're looking for a great way to train your staff, Spexy is a great online resource. And it really helped my staff. Each one of them took something away from it. And just in the way we speak to patients on the phone, how we offer appointments. I mean, as a cold start, some of my days really, we could honestly say, what's your availability? Oh, anything, what time do you want to come in? She's got an opening. They learned from Kayla to offer 2 appointment slots. I have 11 and 1 on Thursday. Which would one of those work? If not, then they offer 1 more, but not saying like the day's wide open, take your pick.
Right.
So just little things that they each took away. But that was really great training. I also, another kind of piece of advice for anyone at any stage of your career is leverage your reps. I had every rep come in and do training. Often we don't want them to come in and we feel like they're a bother. I look at it a different way. It is free training for you and your staff. And they want to help you be more successful because the more money that we make, the more money they make.
100%. So, yep. That's true.
We had every frame rep come in and do a training with the team to learn what their frames are about, what their company is about. Tell us what makes your frames different. What can we teach patients? And everyone learns 3 different facts about a frame line so that they can showcase that to patients. So everyone in my office did that, not just the opticians.
Yeah.
We did the same with the contact lens vendors and the lens reps. So I didn't have to do that. I didn't have to sit down and teach everybody. I had people who are way smarter than me. So that can be done no matter what type of practice. If you're in a cold start and established, have your reps come in and do a refresher, especially on the frames. We think, we kind of expect our opticians know everything about the frames.
Yeah.
But often the reps come in and they just swap out product, but we don't have time to actually understand. Tell me about the history of the company. Who designed it? Where did the frames come from? What's unique? And that can help. I mean, we see it has paid off so much in our optical of helping our opticians sell multiple pairs and our higher end frames because they have a story to back up what they're trying to sell.
Yeah, absolutely. That story is so important. Otherwise, I mean, the one of the big issues with our industry is that the product that we're selling, glasses, is so commoditized. Sorry if you're hearing the noise in the background.
No.
The little one's trying to claw her way in.
Barking dog before here, apparently. So
the little one's trying to claw her way into the room. So yeah, otherwise the product's just commoditized. Anybody can just walk in and say, well, every one of these is just a piece of plastic with a piece of lenses and screws and whatever. But like the story, where it's made, the authenticity of it, the quality of the product, all these things are so important to know. And I want to go back about both of these things. I'm a big fan of everything you just said as far as all of the training. I want to go back and give Kayla and Rook a big shout out at Spexy. I'm going to now call Rook up and ask him to give me some royalties for this, but I'm just kidding.
Me too.
They're amazing. Yeah, you too. You probably deserve it more than me. You brought it up.
It's amazing. No. I mean, I think even ODs could go through it and learn about great tips of communication and the optical strategies to set your opticians up for success, to say the right things in the exam room. So it's very well priced. You can I can log in and see where all my staff are in their training. So you can actually see who's watching what, how far they progressed. So it's really helpful. So you don't have to reinvent the wheel. Like I don't want to sit there and train them on everything, nor should I.
As a business owner, one of the things you have to do is kind of let go a little bit, right? You want control over everything, but at some point you have to realize that you are not the best person. You might be very good at training, but you're likely not the best person who can do the training. And if there's somebody who has a business specifically dedicated to training, likely they're going to be a little better at it. Yes. And it's, like you said, not that expensive, so it's worth looking into. And then the reps, I mean, they're free. So there's like...
And they want your time. They are dying to have that one-on-one time. And they're not, I think we look at reps as salespeople only, but I look at them as a business partner. Yes. I don't look at them as coming in and, selling a product. I look at them at partnering with me to make sure that my patients are getting the very best and make sure my staff is well trained to provide that. And if we don't know what we're talking about, we all fail. But it really, it doesn't just apply to a cold start. I hear so many people that ask me, I know you love optical. I don't, how do you get your optical to be better? How do you sell more multiple pairs or increase your average sale, take a step back and don't force your opticians to do something, but take a step back and say, have I trained you enough? Have I given you the tools to be successful instead of just trying to push frames? Take a step back and maybe invite your top 5 vendors and say, I know we've had your frames forever. I don't actually know much about them other than I know the brand name, but tell me about the line. Tell me about the founders. Tell me about the materials. Tell me about the hinges. Where are these made? What can I tell my patients to differentiate this product from anything else? They are dying to tell you because they know that. They're trained on that. No one ever asked them. And they're really excited to share that. And actually, a few of my reps, and one rep who I've had for 9 years, she's been my frame rep for 9 years. She said to me, no one's ever asked me to do this.
Wow.
And I said, that is a huge shame.
Kind of sad.
Really sad. And hers, she's my number 2 frame brand that we're selling. I mean, it's just, and it doesn't have to be that an optician sits down and says, here's the history of the company, but just a few facts about the frames, the brands really set them apart. So I think that really helps my team be more successful and be more invested in selling. And I made my own frame line, which was super exciting.
Okay. We got to talk about that.
That's another way to differentiate and to really kind of be different. That's been a dream forever I wanted my own frame line. So I partnered with Travis Lefevre, who actually Kayla introduced me to. He's an optician in Utah. He's LFVR Eyewear. And he helped me develop my very first collection called the Look Collective. And within the first month, we sold out.
Wow.
People love the story of a unique brand. That's again, my opticians lead with that. This is Dr. Stewart's collection. She designed each frame. Each one's handmade in Utah, and they're fully customizable. So those are the 3 facts about my brand. So I just emailed him this morning. I'm like, I think I have to order my seconds. I've ordered multiple, but I need more again because it looks a little bare out there. But again, just another way to differentiate a practice.
That's incredible. Because I'm sure there's many of our colleagues who would love to have their own eyewear line, but don't know how to go about it. So
reach out to Travis. It's not scary. People always ask me, gosh, I've heard there's these huge minimums and there's, it's, you have to have 3,000 pieces and I don't actually know where they're coming from, but Travis is amazing. He will walk you through the process and he does small batches. And so it's not as intimidating as it sounds. And they're beautiful quality. I actually named them all with local landmarks. And then he also made one called the Jennifer. So you can get the Jennifer.
Wow. I'm going to have to look into that design.
Yeah, it's amazing. And they're so well made. And people love the story of a handcrafted piece. If you go to his Instagram, you see him making them. So just little things that, again, if I had the opportunity I had the opportunity to do it over and do it a little differently, what would that look like? How could it look different than what everyone else does? So that was another thing that was important to me.
That's huge. Okay. I think that's another really big point. And that's valuable to not just cold start. That's any practice right now. You're looking to differentiate yourself.
Yeah.
And I've been hearing not many people who have their own line, but I've been hearing it from a few colleagues in Canada and the States. And they have different sources for their product, but either way, it's certainly a way to differentiate yourself and have something you can talk about, share your story about. The reps thing, going back to that for a second, I joke, and it's true, actually. It's funny because it's true. I literally used to hide from my reps, and now I hug my reps. Legit, those are the, I used to close the door, be like, tell them I'm not here. Right. And now I'm like, hey, how's it going? Yeah. Big hug. Oh, it's great. What's going on? Tell me about life.
If you treat them well, they're going to treat you well.
They're so nice. It's amazing.
They're just trying to help. I mean, we all have bad stories of, maybe one that wasn't, but they're really trying to help us grow our business. And I think that was a mindset shift for me too, it's not that they're selling a product, they're selling a business solution. And but I also don't have a million of them. That's, in the optical, I was very specific on using less vendors and going deeper. So I don't have 15 frame reps calling on me, taking up staff time. I went way smaller, way smaller in the number so that I could work more closely with them and have them have a bigger impact on my business. But really, so I think that helps. If you've got 25 frame vendors, that's a lot, and it's hard, but going smaller helps.
But even if you do have a lot of frame vendors, like likely it's going to be a smaller number of them that account for more
A
of
lot.
your revenue. And so you're working with a handful of them more closely than the rest. And that's okay. You don't have to hug all of them. You might have closer relationships with a handful. But the ones that I personally tend to have a closer relationship with is because my staff, my optician, they kind of deal with the frames for the most part, is like the on the lens side, so Hoya, for example, and on the contact lens and dry eye side, those reps,
Right.
because I'll be maybe seeing them or talking to them a bit more, but they do, they're the expert in that product.
Yes.
And so they are the person who can help you troubleshoot or answer questions that you don't know how to answer, or help you figure out how to sell more product. They're the expert in that. So I definitely will echo a lot of what you said there and how helpful that can be.
Even on the equipment side, as a cold start, again, I am the master of delegating. I am not a micromanager. So if I can find somebody that's smarter than me, I happily let them go. So when I was building out, Advancing Eye Care has been a wonderful partner for me. So I reached out to them and said, before I start building, I know I'm going to use the Marco products. Can my local Marco rep, Rich, who's amazing, can you help me design my room? And they love that. Before the walls go up, tell me where to put mounts, tell me how to wire it, tell me exactly what I need. It saved a ton of money and time. And so if you have the opportunity when you're building out, before you build out, reach out to your equipment vendors, because they will tell you how big your rooms need to be, where are the plugs should be, where they know. No one ever asks. So I said, tell me where to put everything. They gave me a layout. They didn't design my office, but here's the height you want your monitor. So this is where you're going to do this. And I said, literally type out what I can give to my contractor. And that's what they did. So on the equipment side, partnering with your vendors, not just, again, what's your best price and, on the commodity side, but how can I design an office? Like, what are your suggestions in best practices in designing an office? They know, and they just never are asked. And so again, a free resource that cost me nothing, and it saved me money in not wiring correctly or using too much Ethernet or not enough and having to go back and replace it. So if you are building out, if you're doing a cold start or a renovation, reach out to your equipment reps. They are happy to help you, and they will help you put everything in the right spot. And if it saved me so much time to say here, and then if there was a question, they talked right to my contractor. It was there.
That's amazing.
Took very good care of me, and also. Wow. Again, I bought all of my equipment through them. So you've got this great partner who is going to see your whole practice and make good suggestions based on all of the things you need. So
that's an amazing idea. That's another, man, anybody, okay, this one definitely, anybody who's listening who's got a cold start or is about to build one out, you write these things down. This is crazy. I never thought about that, because again, going back to when we were building out our practice, we had someone who was our architect or designer of the office, whatever their term is, like here's what each room is going to look like or size is going to be. And then we went to go shop for equipment, right? The electrician came in and was like, here's where we're going to put all the plugs and stuff, based on, we've built out another optometry clinic before, here's what we did. And then we went to go buy our equipment, and thankfully everything kind of looks okay and it works, but it could be more efficient for sure.
So we wired everything before. There were no walls. There were no walls when I was meeting with Rich. And so everything was wired before the sheetrock went up.
Awesome. Very good idea. Awesome. That's good to know. I'm going to jot this down if I ever build a new
for your next cold start.
100%. Oh man, I don't know if I want to go through another cold start. You seem to be having way more fun than I did.
I mean, you saw me a couple of weeks ago at the eye doc meeting. People are like, how are you here? Didn't you just start your practice? And it was like 3 weeks in. I have had so much fun. I mean, I think having the experience of run a practice and doing it all, and then kind of figuring out how I want it to look and how I want it to be, which is, again, a luxury that I have in a cold start. But I challenge anyone listening, it doesn't have to be that you're starting over. If you really take a hard look at your practice today, tomorrow, Monday, whatever day you're listening to this, a true, really good look at that and say, is everything the way I want it? If I were to start over today, is my practice the way I want it to be? And if the answer truly is no, it's not like you're going to just sell it and start over, but what small steps can I make to start doing that? Are there things that I don't love doing? And that's okay in optometry. We all feel we have to do everything and love every part. Are there things I enjoy and things I don't love? Can I hire an associate for that? Can I maybe increase doing the things I like? So I definitely am lucky that I got to do it this way, but I think anyone can really sit down and say, okay, if I'm not doing it the way I want it to be, it's a long career. How do I make those small changes to get where I want to be?
Yeah, that's great advice. And that's something that actually I'm in the process of. Again, overall, we're pretty happy with the practice, but it could be better. We could be doing better. And so I'm trying to look at it very objectively and say, what are little things we could spruce up the bathroom? That's the start, or we could change this thing over here. That's a start. Hey, one question I have for you. How about scent? Did you consider scent, smell in the office?
We're working on a signature scent. That's
beautiful.
That's in our plan. Yes, that's in our plan. We haven't found the way that we want to do it, but yes, that's been in. So that was part of my vision. So I created like a huge vision board with what I wanted the practice to look like, what I wanted it to feel like, what I wanted. I created my kind of dream avatar patient. Who is that person? Where are they coming from? How are they going to find me? What do they want? And what experience are they looking for? So we're in the process of figuring that out and figuring the best way to do that, but also be mindful. Like I'm super mindful of people with allergies and scent, right. I know it's not a spa. So we're figuring out the best way to do that, to make it not overpowering and not.
Well, I'm going to come back to you on that, because that's something that's actually one of the top things in my mind is when I walk into the office, it doesn't smell bad. It doesn't have a smell, period. Like when you walk in, your senses are not heightened in any way, or in the olfactory senses at least. And, I've been thinking for so long that walk into like a high-end hotel, always
the Westin has a great smell.
The Westin is you're in a Westin. It's the same no matter where in the world you are. And that I want that. Like, obviously, we only have this one location as a private practice, and but I just want people to feel there's a change in their environment, and just change their senses a little bit to hopefully be more accommodating to what we're about to do. And we're trying to figure that out. What's the best way to deliver the scent? What is the best scent? And to your point, allergies. Yes. Thankfully, we haven't had too many people complain. Like, I wear cologne to work. I don't douse myself in it, but I wear a little. And I've never had anybody complain about scent before. One or two patients who've given us a heads up before they came in. But other than that, so I wonder how important that is. But it is something we have to think about.
Yeah, I mean, we've thought about like looking into developing it through that, or delivering it through the HVAC system, so that you get like the real scent, because a few diffusers here and there doesn't give you that full like scent that you walk into a hotel. But that so that was part of our thought process. But people walk in, they say it smells good. So I also was like, guys, you can't cook popcorn or fish or broccoli. Like it's a small space. So I was like, if you like, no popcorn is like a huge no. Fish, broccoli, anything like strong. Like we have to be really mindful, but scent is part of it. Yeah. So I looked at like our 5 senses of what I want people to kind of feel when they walk in, and our design. So design was super important to me. I didn't want anyone to walk in and say, oh, it looks like an eye doctor's office. If you follow us on Instagram or any of my social media, I share a lot of pictures and videos. So I use actually a designer who does residential design. One of my friends does residential design. And I said, I need your help. And she said, I know nothing about eye care. I was like, exactly. If I wanted an eye care space, I could do that. But I want somebody who doesn't think of it, who doesn't come in thinking eye care. So I think she nailed it. She nailed kind of the way it looks, the way it feels. It doesn't feel like an optometry office, which was exactly what I was going for.
One of my favorite spaces to walk into is like a nice furniture store. Because it's always like cozy and inviting, and they got good decor. I mean, because they sell it, right? They sell paintings and stuff. So they make it. I'm like, how can I? And I see some of our colleagues. I have to get a better look at yours. Your office looks really nice from what I've seen, but
we have a cozy seating area in the front. So when you walk in, we don't have a front desk. So I know that blows people's minds.
I've heard that from some people before.
Like it's an optometry crazy thing. I don't have a front desk. I don't have a front desk person. So you walk in and there's no, like, everyone is a group. It's a concierge feel. So everyone is up front because have laptop will travel. So everyone kind of works up front so that when a patient walks in, they're immediately greeted. So we don't have a front desk, but we have a big cozy seating area with some people. But actually no one sits because we're moving them where they need to go. But
yeah. That's very cool. Okay, we're gonna have to get a better look and maybe share some pictures of your space when we share the podcast. Okay, moving along to acquiring new patients in a cold start. Now, I think maybe a bit of a caveat, because you've practiced in the area for so long, I assume you have some old patients that are coming through, but I'd love to hear some best practices that you could share with us when you're brand new cold start of acquiring new patients.
So I joined the Chamber of Commerce here the first week that I opened, and I joined and they said, oh, we have a new members breakfast. I was like, great, I'll come to that. There's probably 6 of us sitting around in a circle sharing, and I walk in, there were 60 people at this event. And New Canaan is very, it's like a Hallmark movie set town. I mean, it's like the Gilmore Girls meet Hallmark movie. So it's like a very beautiful small town feel, although it's about 25,000 people with a lot of small independent businesses. And the people here are very proud of the support they give their businesses. So the Chamber of Commerce is super active. I didn't join that in my old practice. We were part of a city, which was much more spread out, but I joined that and immediately had 3 new patients that morning who called and booked. Just from that, they love supporting other chamber members. So I would say, get involved early on and join the Chamber of Commerce, invest in that. Like, it can be an expense for a new business, but making that investment pays dividends way back. I'm going to do a ribbon cutting in the spring with the first selectman. It'll be a whole thing. I would also suggest any local small newspapers, if you're in a small town, who are looking for content. The New Canaanite is our daily local online newspaper. And the person who owns that emailed me and said, I'd love to just come interview and see your space. I was like, sure. Came the same day as the Chamber of Commerce, which is actually the next day I went to the IDOC meeting. My staff texted me, they're like, that article is already out and the phone is ringing off the hook.
Wow.
So people saw that. And these are not former patients of mine. That's another group who are finding me. But small newspapers, the number of people that saw that newspaper and called or texted, it's still my patient today, one of them today came from that. And the third thing I did was the moms groups are so powerful, Facebook and Instagram. Those mom groups are amazing. So I partnered with our 2 Darien and New Canaan Facebook and Instagram moms groups. And I did an email blast and a Instagram post. And
that's a great idea.
It was a huge increase in number of new patients. So those 3 plus our location. So I consider our location also an investment in marketing. So our rent is significantly higher than traditional office space, but I look at that as a marketing expense for me. That we're on the first floor. My whole front is windows. We're on a very walkable street. So I consider the higher rent to be a marketing cost of just, we sit out front and wave at people and smile, and it works. We had 3
and they don't find it weird. Okay.
Who came in, they're like, you guys look so nice, and waved at me. So I booked an appointment, and I'm like,
that's amazing.
All right. So all those little things, that was free, right? Like just sitting and waving at people. So those are the things that I've done on top of having, a huge base of patients. That's secondary, but the new patients, I ask every patient where they found us, and so I can keep track of that. And it's mostly from those 3 sources, or 4 is the Chamber of Commerce, us waving and walking by, and the Facebook group. So I guess it was 3, and then also former patients. But getting involved early is so huge. People are very excited to see new businesses.
That's all really great advice. And I wonder, the waving in the window, that's funny. I just wonder people... You're
like, your team is so friendly. We're just like, hey, we're like, we make it awkward. You can't avoid us.
That's amazing. Okay. Amazing advice. Thank you so much, Jen. And you know what, just in the being conscious of time here, I'd love to I have so many more questions, and we might have to do a second part, or we'll do, I think, a live session or something like that would be kind of cool, where people can come in with questions, because I know there's going to be a lot. I'm certain when we put this out there, there's going to be people who are really taking note of it. So I'd said off the top that we would talk about sports vision, but we're going to have to maybe put that on for another episode. Although you could go back to I'll have to figure out which episode it was, but you could go back to the previous episode. I'll put the link in the show notes if you want to go back and learn a bit more about sports vision. But why don't you just quickly tell us in 2 minutes, you have a course about sports vision. Who's that for? How do we access that?
So I love sports vision. That's another piece of what I do. And one of the most common questions I got there was, how do I get started? Or how did you get started? What advice do you have? And I was doing one-on-one consulting with so many people, and everyone had the same questions. And I said, you know what? Seems like there's a lot of interest and common looking for, the same questions. So I decided to put a course together. It was something I did. I wouldn't have the time now, so I'm thankful I did it last year. But I put a course together through OD Perspectives. It's called See Faster, Play Faster, and it's a over 2-hour course, really soup to nuts. Why you should start a sports vision practice, looking at location, staffing, marketing, pricing, internal and external marketing. All the things you could be doing and thinking about. So that's available through OD Perspectives. And I've had such great feedback from people who've gone through it. So that's out there. So that's a good way to dip your toe into the water of sports vision. And it's an awesome field. Perfect.
And I'm so intrigued. I've been saying it for a while. That you have that course, that makes it a lot more accessible, actually.
Yes.
So odperspectives.com.
Yes.
Okay.
Yep.
OD, the letter O, letter D, perspectives.com.
Yes.
Okay, you'll find it there. I will also link that in the notes. Okay, so let's get closer to wrapping up. Now, there's a couple of newer sections. I think I forewarned you a little bit. First, a little rapid fire, 4 or 5 quick questions, quick answers, 1 word to 1 sentence sort of thing. So I want you to get warmed up here. You're ready. You're always ready. Never mind.
I'm ready.
All right. So, Jen, what gives you energy?
Coffee. People. Other than my coffee, people. I'm an extrovert.
Totally people. Get that. I still, you know what? I still remember. Now, I asked you to give me a short answer, and then I'm going to give this long thing after. It's my podcast. I get to do what I want. Yeah. I still remember the first time we met in person. I think it was New York last year or New York the year before. It's only been a year or two since we ever actually met in person. It was like, obviously social media and stuff, you kind of feel like you know people, but I saw you and it was like I knew you. We hugged and we said hello, and it was like a friend. The energy is awesome. So people give you energy, you give the energy back to people clearly. So that's great.
I hope so.
Let's go the opposite way. What drains your energy?
People. People, I would say on the other side too. I'm an extrovert who's also part introvert, so I need my time. So I often disappear at meetings because I need to kind of reset after all of the extrovertedness. Yeah. I also need to reset and regroup. So people,
you're an ambivert.
I am.
All right. What keeps you up at night?
Nothing. I am the world's best sleeper.
Amazing.
I fall asleep. I know my husband's like, you don't ever say, I'm like, no, I just I'm a good sleeper. There's going
to be a lot of people listening who are very jealous of you.
I know. I'm a horrible, I know. But I get up really early. So I get up at 5 to work out. So I have to go to sleep. And I try and think through everything before I go to bed. So I'm not laying there thinking things through. But again, I delegate a lot. So true. I think not feeling like I have to do everything helps me sleep better at night.
For sure. Love it. So what would you do if money was not an issue? What would you do to keep yourself busy or be productive or enjoy your life?
I'd say this. I'm living exactly what I wanted to do. I would trade nothing. I really am enjoying my practice. I was curious to see how I'd feel coming back to work after a year and a half off. I love my home office and I love being in pajamas all day. So, wearing a nice top and PJ bottoms, but I really am having so much fun. I love being here every day, and I really am enjoying this part of my life. And I don't think there's anything, other than okay, I could go to Disney World every day,
Right. Oh, you're a big Disney person. Yes.
Yes. But I really think if money was no object, I think I'd be doing exactly what I'm doing now. I set my schedule the way I want it. I see the patients I want to see. the number of patients per day I want to see. We take very little insurance. So yes, we could do a whole nother conversation on that, but I set it up to run exactly the way I want. The number of staff I have, the number of patients, the type of patients, it's exactly what I want. So I think if money were no object, I'd still be sitting here saying the same thing.
On the 2020 podcast.
On the 2020 podcast.
Yes.
Every day.
Every day. We could do, there are a lot of episodes that we could make, that's for sure. All right, last one, sort of in a similar vein. What task or activity do you do that time kind of disappears? Like it brings you to your flow state?
Oh, I'd say working out. I love to work out, going back to, starting over. I love to work out. That's a non-negotiable part of my day. I turn my phone off. I get up early and I work out first. And I think that's where I really zone out and just focus on getting a good workout in and getting that part of my day done. I love to compartmentalize. So that's non-negotiable. I do that, but now that's over and now I'm ready for the day. So that I think is where I get my best ideas. If I go out for a walk, I do a lot of lifting, a lot of yoga, a lot of Pilates. So I think that's where I just kind of go into, I'm not thinking about the office. I'm not thinking about anything but myself in the moment. And I let myself be very selfish for that hour or hour and a half, maybe 2 hours if it's a nice day and I have time to walk, which probably won't happen anymore. But so I think that's like when I zone out and really kind of think is when I'm working out. And my kids and everyone in my family knows like that's my time.
Yeah, but at 5 a.m., there's probably not that many people up to bother you anyway.
I mean, my kids sometimes come down and I'm like, nope, nope, not yet.
Yeah. Yeah. All right. So those are the kind of the rapid fire, although neither one of us is good at that, clearly. The next one is also a new part of relatively new part of the podcast. You have kids. So have you seen the movie Moana?
Yes.
Okay. Well, you're a Disney fan.
Yeah.
Of course. Yes. All right. So Maui has a song, You're Welcome. He's talking about all the things that he's done, right? To like create the universe and the world. I don't have to
sing, right? This is not like
you do not have to sing, although you're welcome to. In fact, that might add
no
a little.
No one wants that.
We're going to get way more downloads than ever before, Jen. No, but this is, in a kind of a tongue-in-cheek way, a time for you to share with us something really impactful that myself and the audience will take away and say, this has made us better. We'll say a big thank you to you, and then you will say, you're welcome. So we're going to do You're Welcome. You're welcome. You're welcome. So Jen, what is one piece of advice or one quote or something impactful that you can share with us that will help change our lives?
I would say that no matter what stage you are in your practice, whether you're a new grad, cold start, established practice, looking to buy, it's never too late to create the practice that's authentic to you. So I am 43. I will be 44 in December. Did I ever think when I graduated that I would be starting over? Absolutely not. This was not part of my life plan, but it's exactly where I need to be. But I think each one of us has the opportunity to really sit back and take stock of what's important to us and what we want our lives to be. And our practices can really take over and our lives can take over, and we can feel this dissatisfaction with optometry in our lives. But really sitting back and thinking, if I could make one change today in my practice, what could it be? And not be afraid to make that change. Don't be afraid to make bold choices. Don't be afraid to make choices or things that are completely against the grain. That's exactly what I did. And I've had a number of people tell me I'm crazy and that I'm going to fail. And I just let it roll off. I mean, you just have to have a thick skin, but to really build a practice that you enjoy going to, that if you were to win the lottery or if you were to do something that money is no object, that you would choose to be in your practice. I think that that's an important way to live. And if it's not the way you want it to be, no matter where you are, you might not have the opportunity to start over, but you have the opportunity to start doing something differently. So that's my big piece of advice.
That's incredible advice. Thank you.
Awesome. Well, thank you. I won't sing.
Well, hang on, Jen.
Now it's in my head though. Like I can't get that out of my head. So
I was going to say, I say thank you and you have to say.
I'll just say thank you.
No, you're welcome. You have to say you're welcome.
Sorry, you're welcome. I'm like I'm hearing the song. I'm like, I can't. Now it's in my head. I'm going to have to play Moana.
We'll do it one more time, Jen. Thank you so much.
Thank you for having me. This was amazing.
Jennifer, welcome. You're supposed to say you're welcome. When I say
welcome.
Thank you, let's try it one more time, Jen. That was amazing advice, Jen. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Hey, it's okay. You're welcome.
There we go. Third time's a charm.
I'm thinking of Moana now. I want to go watch Moana.
Clearly, this is not sticking. I'm forcing it. But anyways, let's see. It might work. The Moana is such a great movie.
It's so good. Now I'm like, okay, I listen to Disney music a lot when I'm not seeing patients. I listen to like Disney theme park music, and now I think I'm gonna listen to Moana.
Yeah, it's great. Well, my girls, that's all they want to listen to right now. They're on Wish, the movie Wish.
Oh yeah,
they want to hear that soundtrack over and over. So that's what we play in the car. All right, Jen. Before we do wrap up officially, where can people find you, or where are places you'd like people to go to find you?
So I have 2 Instagrams. I have Jennifer Stewart OD, which is my professional Instagram. I have Look New Canaan Instagram. You can also find me on LinkedIn.
Beautiful. Thank you, Jen.
You're welcome.
That was amazing. Honestly, I can't tell you, there was so much gold in this episode. I can't wait to share it. And I think anybody who's not even cold starts or new starts, but like people who have existing practices like myself, can take a lot away from that. So thanks so much for taking the time. Definitely want to have you back on. We're going to talk about more stuff, or maybe we'll do a live episode like we talked about. So
that would be fun. Like that would be really fun to do and like answer, or just not answer weird questions that we're like, nope, not going to do that.
No, that's not a question that you should be asking. Yeah.
Nope.
All right. Well, thank you. And thank you to everybody who's listening and watching, whether you're on Apple or Spotify, YouTube, wherever you are. Thank you for tuning into the 2020 podcast, Canada's #1 optometry podcast. I'll see you guys in the next episode.